So it's literally a matter of good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. We happen to be in Mauritius. Our head office is in Mauritius, and we serve Africa from Mauritius. And so we're 2 hours ahead. So I'm looking at the time here. According to my clock, it is 1 minute past 2. So it's 1 minute past 12 on your side, I think. So lovely to have everybody with us. That's fantastic. I'm going to do the presentation. It's going to be a PowerPoint presentation together with Penny. She'll be able to provide a lot more information. And as we go through the process, I'm going to suggest if you have any questions, just jot them down. I'm a great one for notepads and pens and things like that. Jot down your questions, and then at the end, we'll have a question and answer session that hopefully goes well. Okay, there we go. I just went a bit good. Let me just quickly get the share screen up. And Joe, can I just ask you, can you see that, the welcome screen?
I can see it.
Okay, fantastic. And the recording has started. So we've got a couple of people that have joined us, Raymond, Joe, Jasper, Peter, Rudy, Elise, Emmanuel, and one or two other people that are coming in. So really nice to have you with us. For those of you that don't know us, we'll give you a little bit more information as to who we are. And for us that know you, lovely to have you with us again and again and again. Now, you would have received an invitation from Natalie, our customer relations manager and our marketing manager. And it would have spoken about something along the lines of, do you own training as a training provider, or alternatively, do you own in-house training if you happen to be a training company, training department? Now, very important, I always start off with this, just saying I'm not a lawyer. I have a law enforcement background. I was a cop for a couple of years, about 10 years, and 5 years in the SAP, and another 5 years in the military police. And so I enjoy legislation. I understand criminal legislation to a greater or lesser degree. I was part of a prosecutorial process. Obviously, we used to arrest people and lock them up. I was in the drug squad during the time of the hippie movement, and I got to know and like the legislation. And as a result of that, when I came across the health and safety legislation, was first the Factories Act, and from the Factories Act, it went to the MOS Act, the Machinery and Occupational Safety Act, and then, of course, to the Occupational Health and Safety Act as we have it now. So I worked for NOSA for a couple of years, and then when I left NOSA, I started INTRA Train, which was a training company. I was one of the first training companies in South Africa, so had tons and tons of experience, and I've seen this evolution from a fairly simple business model, a business mechanism, to quite a convoluted thing. And at the moment, it is convoluted in as much as there's lots of people involved, SAQA, SETA, NQF, QCTO, and things like that. So a while ago, about 10, 12 years ago, Penny and I decided what we would do, instead of running health and safety courses, we would help those who want to run their own health and safety courses, either in-house or alternatively, if they wanted to run it as a private entity, as a profitable organization, we'd help them and share our insights to the best of our ability. We have a number of licensees that are around the country, and those licensees are also part of the network, and we'll talk about them in a moment. So Penny comes out of a business background. She's been in business longer than I have, so she understands small business, and her role within INTRA is she's our financial director. You know the James Bond character, Money Penny? This is she, this is her, this is Money Penny. And together we run the organization, and we've got a team of people. This is the front end of the team. We have a number of people that are behind the scenes as well. So there's Penny and myself and Natalie, the young lady with the white top there and the dark hair. That's my daughter. Then Erna, she's our debtors and creditors clerk. The gent with the check shirt is Mike Denobriger, our lawyer. The lady in the left-hand side bottom corner is Deline Sheesby. She heads up our training material development section. She operates her own consultancy as well. The gent with the black shirt and the glasses, that is Gavin. He is our accountant. The young man with the grey shirt and I was going to say bald head. It's not so bald. He looks after our e-learning program. The guy in the hippie shirt there, the surfer shirt there, he looks after our online
digital marketing
agent and stuff like that. They're based in Cape Town. And then the young fellow with the black shirt, he looks after the software and things of that nature, because this is a digital business and we need those people. Okay. Now, having said that, I'm not a lawyer, important to note. I'm also not an accountant. And I also know that for a lot of people after a session like this, they want the answers as quickly as possible. So there is a document that we created called the prospectus. And the prospectus is details, facts and figures and features and bits and pieces like that, which I'm going to suggest you get hold of. You can actually go onto our website, intrasafe.coza, and click on the button that says request more information, and automatically you will receive this document, the prospectus. And our suggestion always is print it. And once you've printed it, go through it with a highlighter, draw up a list of questions, and then either you and I or Penny, and we can have a one-on-one session. We can answer your questions for you and your partners and whoever else is interested in the process. Okay, so there we go. Now, we know that in South Africa, the Occupational Health and Safety Act is the predominant piece of legislation. We also have the Mines Health and Safety Act, but it's a much smaller section of the population. The OHSA, or the Occupational Health and Safety Act, covers something like 17 million people. So it's 17 million employees in South Africa, 500,000 about in the mining industry. So there's a huge, huge need for health and safety training in South Africa. You know what is really quite nice is the fact that this is legislated. So the law says you will do it, employers will do it. Now, that's great from a sales and marketing point of view. If you think of it, there's no arguing. Do I need to do it? Yes, the law said so. And it is criminal legislation, and we know that there are penalties there. Okay, so let's have a look at what the legislation says very quickly. One of the sections is Section 8, and it's the employer's duties. And I'm going to read it for you very, very quickly. This is just an extract. You can take your time and go through it. It says the employer shall establish the hazards and precautionary measures. So bear that in mind. Step 1 in Section 8, establish the hazards. What are your dangers, hazards, and risks? That's what the employer must do. Secondly, the employer shall establish the precautionary measures or safe work procedures. So hand in hand with that, they will identify the hazards and then they will write the precautionary measures or have somebody do it for them. And then once you know what the dangers, hazards, and risks are and what the precautionary measures, then you literally knit that into information sessions, instruction sessions, training sessions, and at the same time, you need to provide supervision to make sure that all these things actually work. So that's brilliant from a sales and marketing point of view. So I want to quickly point out there are 3 words there. They are different. Information, instruction, and training are different things. And most of us talk about training, but we tend to ignore the fact that the law requires information sessions and instruction sessions. But more about that as we go along. Then we see from there, Section 13 says, now we've got all this information. What are we going to do with it? Well, clearly it says in Section 13, the employer must cause every employee to be made conversant. So, Joe, we were talking about that with the ergonomics regulation. All employees must be made conversant. What's conversant mean? It means they can talk about it. So I use an example frequently of the ergonomics regulation. The employee needs to be made conversant. And after the session, after they've been through an ergonomic session, they need to be able to talk about it. And then, of course, what they're going to talk about, they're going to talk about the hazards, as well as those precautions. So I'm sure you can see how it's all knits together. Now, from there, we go, fine. We know that the employer shall do this. So the employer shall provide. Who must do the training? The employer. But we know that the employer can't do it because the employer is busy employing and the employer is busy producing. So what they can do is they can appoint somebody to do it either in-house as an in-house trainer, or alternatively, they can employ a contractor. And we'll talk about that. So what kind of dangers, hazards, and risks exist in the workplace? I come across this a lot because this is the world that we live in. We live in the short course world, health and safety short course world. And if you look at that list over there, these are things that may very well be present in the workplace. And the law says every employee shall be made conversant. Depending on what the employee does, there's more. Now, each one of these is either an information session or an instruction session or a training session. And you can see from this, it's a lot. And yesterday we were talking to a specialist and she was talking about mental health in the workplace. And there's an attorney that spoke at the SAQA conference and she was talking about mental health. That's not even on this list. I'm still going to put it on. And then there's more. Now, this is kind of overwhelming if you think about it, because we'll be talking about SAQA and SETA and NQF and QCTO organizations like that. They are unfortunately in the dark and are not able to provide us with support. So this is where it comes down to pure legal compliance. Section 8, Section 13, legal compliance. And it could be a matter if there's a prosecution where the prosecutor would ask the question, or maybe before that, the inspector would say, have you done it? Now, please just have a look at that list. If you want that list, I'll send it to you independently. You can have a look at the list and use it almost as a checklist when you go to see a client if you're doing a hazard identification and risk assessment. Okay, so moving on from there, that's 67 different topics that I just put together. So what have we done? What we have done is we've identified 25 of those topics and turned it into legal compliance training material. This training material has facilitator guides and learner guides, and it has PowerPoints and things like that. And these programs, we regard them as our unique, original training material. They're customizable, very easy to use, and I've just finished number 26. Number 26 is a program called Stack Track, which is stacking and storage. So really, really exciting stuff. And these are what we would all call low-hanging fruit. And as in low-hanging fruit, everybody needs them. And from a business point of view, if you're going to be a provider, this is stuff that everybody needs. Now, there are a couple of challenges, and I'll talk about some of those challenges, for instance, when we come to the SAQA SETA stuff. Okay, so that's the list. We'll provide you with that. And we have a catalog that highlights the content of each one of these programs you can have a look at. That catalog you can also get from us. You can WhatsApp me or you could WhatsApp Natalie, and we'll just send that to you as well. It's just a PDF file. So it's a catalog that contains what's in the course content. Okay, let's carry on from there, because now the question is, the employer is supposed to do the training. We see that by law, but we do know that the employer is allowed to delegate that to somebody else. And we can see that they can appoint training providers. That's in section 2E of section 8. Okay, now those training providers are contractors. And in terms of that law, the Occupational Health and Safety Act, a contractor is a mandatary. That's not a spelling mistake. It's the way it's spelled, T-A-R-I-E-S. And a mandatary is a contractor. But I just want to point out to you that it's important that you know that as a mandatary, you have legal responsibilities. Okay, so I want to just read this to you, and I keep highlighting this because I think a lot of people get into the training world and they go, hey, I just do the training and I've got no legal responsibility. Heck, you do. Okay, so that's what it says. The employer may appoint the person as a mandatory. If you look at section 37 of the Act, it says the following: whenever any employee or mandatory of any employer or user does or omits to do an act which should be an offense in terms of this act for the employer or such user to do or omit to do, he, that's the mandatory, shall be liable to be convicted and sentenced in respect thereof as if he or she were the employer or user. Very important that people know and understand that and acknowledge it. So there's a role that you play over there. Once again, question comes up is, am I allowed to do training? Because I often hear people saying, and Penny and I come across this a lot, all health and safety training must be accredited. All health and safety training must be provided by the subject matter specialist. But that's not what the law says. The law says the employer must. Now, what we're going to do, have the employer go on a course so that they can run it? No, they're going to use mandatories, or the employer could have a full-time person within their organization. Okay, so this document that I wrote, very, very useful. And on the research journey, as you go through it, give us a shout. What we'll do is we will send you a copy of this document. You can have a look at it. And interestingly enough, a point that I picked up after speaking to some legal minds is that it is your constitutional right to do your own training or to do the training for somebody else. Okay, so having said that, let's move on. Now, what happens if you don't? Well, in terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, remember we said it's criminal legislation. It says any person who is guilty of an offense. Now, remember, any person is the employer, as we've just seen, or the mandatory who is guilty of an offense, could be fined 50,000 Rand in terms of the current legislation. Or if and when one day they decide to publish the amendment bill, that fine is potentially going to go up to 5 million Rand. So it's a jolly good incentive for employers to get training done. Now, I'm saying that from a, shall we say, a business point of view, generating income, if that's part of your objective. But at the same time, you with your background, I mean, we're just chatting to Joe. Joe's an occupational health and safety practitioner. With that background, you're going to do something which I fondly call keep employers out of jail and keep employees out of hospital. And that's the whole purpose here. Twofold purpose, becoming a training provider. Now, a lot of people are still confused when it comes to legal compliance training versus credit-bearing training. Credit-bearing training is where the training provider is accredited, whereas legal compliance training is the law said do the training. The law said identify the dangers, hazards, and risks and do the training. Simple. Okay. Then the question comes up, What do you want to do? Do you want to do this training in-house, or do you want to become a training provider? And it's important that you have a clear picture as to what you're going to do. They say begin with the end in mind. That was an old statement that was made years and years ago. What do you want to do? So you can immediately say, well, I want to be an in-house trainer, or I want to be a training provider. And we can assist you with both of those roles, whatever you choose to do. Okay, so if I decide I want to do in-house training, why? Well, there are a couple of good reasons. Financial, legal compliance. I want to do it myself. I want to be able to customize it so it's risk specific. I want to make sure that it's a lot more efficient than me sending people in a minibus to a training center. And I also want to make sure that my team grow, that I develop my team, that they have an understanding of what's going on in the workplace. Imagine this, that you have supervisors and charge hands and people like that, but they don't know what the law is. Now, in this instance, you could do the training in-house. It'd be a lot more relevant. And if you find yourself in a situation where you cannot do it, well, then you look to somebody who wants to become a training provider. Now, for those of you that are looking to become a training provider, please just note, it is a business, and you need to run it like a business. And certainly in terms of South African legislation, there are laws that you need to apply, such as the Consumer Protection Act and the taxation legislation and laws of that nature. There's the legislation and the information around BEE and POPIA and PIA, and so that's going to be part of your operation. Starting up a business on your own, for us, it was a challenge in the beginning, but now we know and understand, and that's why we help you to actually get up and running as quickly as possible. All right, more about this at a later stage. Let's get straight into it. So what do? We put together a franchise-like model. It's called a license in terms of the Consumer Protection Act. If you have a look at I think it's Section 22 of the Act, it talks about the structure. And what we do is we license our licensees to run training programs, to use our training material, use our systems and things like that, use our logos and our branding and our trademarks. And this business model comprises of a number of specific things. So we've got the options, and we'll talk about the options in a moment. Then those blue Zoom ones, we help you get up and running. And we have a lot of sessions that you can attend. It's voluntary. You don't have to attend them. In some instances, you'd know more about the topic than I would, but we're saying it's available if this is something that you or your team need to get up to speed. Then, of course, we've got training material, licensee training material, which you saw there were 25, now 26. We have an e-learning platform. We still have a lot of SAQA unit standard aligned material, although you probably know that SAQA is no longer accrediting anybody. All accreditation must take place via QCTO. We have ongoing sessions on YouTube, so on Zoom, and then we record it and put it onto YouTube so that you could watch it afterwards. Then there is a whole section on the QCTO accreditation. It looks like a lot of work there, but it's just to highlight the different activities. And we'll talk about that in a moment. And then we have a networking opportunity of note. So we currently have about, how many, Penny?
About 100 plus.
We have 100 plus paying licensees, literally from Dubai to Durbanville. And we'll talk about them in a moment because they are available for you to get up and running. Joe, until such time as you get your accreditation, you can actually do business collaborating with licensees elsewhere in the country or outside of the borders of the country. Now, there are 4 licenses, and I'm going to ask Penny just to quickly touch on those licenses, and it's actually 5, but she'll go for it. Go for it, Penny.
Thanks, Ken. So the starter is, as the name suggests, it's just really toe in the water, where you can select 6 of the legal compliance training materials and 6 e-learning courses. And there is a small monthly license fee of 500 Rand per month. And then the basic, you're starting on the ladder of the real licensing program. So the basic is all about the legal compliance training, and you get full access to all of those 26 training materials that Ken was talking about, plus full access to all 18 of the e-learning courses as well. And then all the normal features and benefits of being a INTRA licensee. With the Prime is our main license, that's our main focus. And with the Prime license, you get a full delivery. It's about R250,000 worth of delivery up front. And that includes everything that you would have got in the basic, but also includes the SAQA unit standards, as well as the QCTO training materials as they become available. So at the moment, of course, we're waiting for quite a few new OHS skills programs to be published so that we can make those available to our licensees as soon as possible. There's also a Prime Plus option. This is for those that wish to have a more project managed approach to their QCTO accreditation. And that is slightly more expensive. And then the top of the rank is the Platinum, which is ideal for corporates or multi-branch companies, multi-country companies, etc. And there we negotiate according to the size of the company, number of employees, etc., etc.
So the prospectus document, that's going to provide you with a lot more information. And between Penny and myself and Natalie, we'll be able to answer your questions and give you a little bit more information. And remember I said, if you want, Penny and I can set up a session with you and your management team or your partners or your colleagues or your spouse, whoever wants to be on the team now. Okay, so let's move on. Thank you, Penny. So what you're going to get when you become a licensee is we have an orientation session, we have an onboarding session, we have a lot of mentoring where people just call and we provide them with information. I mentioned that Penny's been in small business longer than I have. How long have you been in small business, Penny?
I'm giving my age away now. 4 decades.
4 decades. Well, she started young. She was 12 when she started. Okay, and we have an operations manual, like with the franchise, you have an operations manual. This manual is growing all the time. More and more information is being put into it, and there's tips and hints and guidelines and links and things like that. So you don't have to know it all. You'd be able to go into that ops manual and you'd be able to pick up information there. And we talk about sales and marketing and advertising and things of that nature. We talk about the actual course content and product and what's happening in the marketplace from a marketing point of view. And of course, the ultimate topic is QCTO. What's happening with QCTO? So we had a session yesterday, very, very briefly, and Penny will tell you about that in a moment. Penny goes, really?
No, we were just present with the feedback from the APED board that recently had a face-to-face meeting with the CEO of QCTO and other representatives of the QCTO, just talking about so many of the concerns that we've been raising. And APED represents not only health and safety training providers, but training providers across the entire spectrum. And it was very, very interesting to get the feedback. There's a couple of items that we're definitely going to pursue and double check back for our licensees, which I think will help our licensees enormously. But yes, I think it was an encouraging meeting. The chips are down at the moment, as everybody knows, because time is running out, and we do need to have a way forward, properly structured with the QCTO. So everybody working together, it looks like it will happen. So very excited still about the future and what we're going to be doing with the new OHS skills programs that are on their way.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I mentioned this to you right now is that it's great if you could sit through those sessions, but goodness gracious me, there's so many of these sessions taking place and we stay abreast of it. And we do that, we do the course development, the course material development and so forth, taking that load off your shoulders. And we then attend these workshops and sessions and so forth so that you don't have to, and we can and will, where we have the opportunity, we'll share that with you. So you just catch up with the highlights. Okay, how do we do that? Well, we record it. We run these sessions and we record it. Now everybody's familiar with what's happening in the AI world and how do we use AI in terms of training. And we have a session coming up again on AI. You'll see there's a program there called BFAR. That's the Basic Emergency First Aid Responder course, where we have orientation sessions. We've got the training material. There's the HIRA up there, hazard identification and risk assessment. We develop the training material. And then we actually have course content orientation sessions, which help hugely. Okay, so we'll invite you to that. We've also got a private online Facebook page where we talk about the local stuff between us. This is between licensees, and we encourage you to connect with the other licensees as well. Okay, so Penny's going to quickly talk about the e-learning program. I believe this is useful so that you can get to know the subject matter. How many programs are there, and what's this all about, Penny?
Thanks, Ken. So yes, I've been championing the e-learning platform for some time, and currently we have 18 courses. We're looking at a whole revamp of our e-learning platform going into 2026, so watch this space. And this has been really helpful for licensees just for their own familiarization of the content of the different courses. It's also a great income opportunity. So what we do is we charge our licensees a wholesale rate per course, and they charge their client a full retail rate. So it works out approximately 50% profit or more, which is a great income opportunity to add to your monthly income, and gives you an opportunity to get a lot of that legal compliance tick box training done, especially where you have clients that are, dispersed around the country, etc. It's been very, very useful. We've got a special offer that we're doing with our licensees now that we're launching in the month of September, and that is that they can buy credits for these e-learning courses for their client sales. So they can buy in bundles of 10 or bundles of 20, and they get an additional 2 e-learning courses for free for the 10, and an additional 4 e-learning courses for free with the 20. So that's been working well. We've been testing it with a couple of licensees the last month or two, and they said, wow, it's just saved them so much time. And they've been able to fly with the e-learning every day. I'm uploading learners for them, so it's working extremely well. Back to Ken.
So if you think of running your own e-learning platform, that's good. We'll actually assist you with that at a later stage. If you want to, what you do is you work with ours. You don't have to set it up. You don't have to pay the outlay of the whole setup and having a staff member look after it. And when you're ready, we'll transfer the intellectual property of these programs to you for a fee. And I do mention for a fee because obviously there's quite a lot of work involved in it. But it does mean that ultimately you'll be able to get your own e-learning platform up and running. Okay, so having said that, Penny's done a wonderful job on that. Okay, so then I mentioned is collaboration, and we have our licensees in as many as 8 different countries in Africa already. I was chatting to somebody recently. He's in Angola, Ghana, Liberia, and so forth. So you can then liaise with them over the borders of South Africa, and as a licensee, it's your business. And you run your business, and obviously you collaborate with these people. But if you happen to have a client that's, let's say, in Velkom, and they need 2 people trained on a training program, and it's not worth your effort, time, money, energy to jump in the car or to jump in the plane to fly there for 2 or 3 people, you can just put word out and say, does anybody have accredited training for or legal compliance training for, let's say, working at heights in Velkom? And one of our licensees will put his hand up and say, yep, I can help you with it. And you collaborate with them. And of course, that deal, the financial deal that you do is between you and them. We have nothing to do with that. Okay. So now remember these courses that I said that we've developed. I want to run through them very, very quickly. And you'll see that we nickname them, and we use the word track at the end, training course. So we've got the ACT track, the AIDS track, asbestos, claim track, construction regulations, working in confined space, and the con space, COVID-19, Dango. You go, why COVID-19? Penny, why COVID-19?
Well, COVID-19 is still in the law. And in fact, it is still part of the QCTO accreditation process to prove that you have those policies and procedures in place, including your alcohol disinfectant, et cetera, So it is still relevant.
Yep, absolutely. Then number 8 is Dango, dangerous goods. Then ElecTrack, EnviroTrack, ErgoTrack, EvacTrack, and FallTrack. Now, number 11 is the ergonomics track. So what we would say is this. You acquire the training material either as a bundle, as part of your license, or alternatively get them individually. But how do you know? Well, let me put it this way. What do you know about ergonomics? Maybe nothing. Maybe very little. You know a little bit about it. So what we do is we say, right, you've got all the training material, you've got the PowerPoints, you've got the workbooks, you've got the facilitator guide, and we recorded the co-developer, the ergonomist. We recorded him in a session, so it's a bit of an orientation session. And then we say, right, and do the e-learning program as well. Now, does that make you a subject matter specialist? No, not at all. You're now just aware and a generalist. So can you do an information session on ergonomics as required in Section 8? Yes, of course you can. Like a toolbox talk or even a slightly longer session. And from there, can you do a instruction session? Yes, of course, where you get a lot more practical and you get into the workplace and you do the walkabouts and things like that. And then, of course, the training. Now, the training would obviously be unit standard aligned or QCTO curriculum aligned. Unfortunately, at this stage, even though they're promising to do it, they still haven't done it. And that was 2019, 2020. We're now in 2025. There's no ergonomics unit standard other than for an ergonomics risk assessment. And that's a minor part of the market, whereas 17 million people need ergonomics training. So I think you get the point. So what else have we got? We've got fire track, we've got first aid, and this is not the General Safety Regulation 3 first aid training. This is life skills training. We'll explain that. We've got 2 food safety, food track and food work programs. We've got health and safety rep, hazardous chemical substances or agents, then HIRA, induction, investigation, noise, supervision. Remember we said in terms of Section 8, inform, instruct, train, and supervise, and that supervisor must be trained. And then tool track, which is hand tools. And now number 26, as of today, stack track. Stack track is stacking and storage, which we know in terms of general safety regulations, it's a legal requirement. Okay, so moving on. Penny will quickly talk to you about the special.
So the spring special, which is valid until the end of September, so you still have time to take advantage of this, and it's been selling really, really well. You can buy any 2 and get 1 free. So for those of you that are not quite ready for the licensing program, but you just want to see the quality of the training material, this is perfect. Absolutely perfect way for you to see. And then bear in mind that when you are ready to upgrade to any of the licenses, we will deduct this and give you a credit for this payment against that license payment.
The credit is of how much? What percentage being?
We do a credit up to a maximum of 50% of the upfront fee.
Spoken like money, Penny.
Yes.
Okay. So Stack Track is available. And in fact, it's out for peer review right now as we speak. We have a number of peers that are looking at it. And so far, we're getting some really, really, really good feedback. And it's a 2-part program. One is the planner who will be doing the supervision of the stacking. And the other one is the stacker. So one is for the employer and one is for the employee. So I'm looking forward to doing the orientation on that within the next week or 2. Good. Then, of course, even though there's been this huge transition from SETA to QCTO, we still have the training material, the unit standard aligned training material. Now, you can't use it as a credit bearing program. You can just run it. But what I'm saying is that amongst those programs, there's some 40 programs there. You'll find that there's some excellent training materials so you can move ahead and you can do your legal compliance training with that. Okay. Now, for those of you that have never been in business before, or those of you that are setting up your business for the very first time, sales and marketing, very, very important, especially in the initial stages of your business as you get known. Important to know about sales and marketing and advertising and promotions and things of that nature. So Natalie, my daughter, she's got a media degree from UCT and she's worked for a number of large advertising agencies in the social media department. And she now helps our licensees actually set themselves up online. And she gives you about 5 hours worth of quality time. She'll take you through the process. She'll do an audit of what you've got. She'll tell you whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. She'll introduce you to all kinds of interesting things like SEO, search engine optimization, and automation and integration and things of that nature so that you can make your business run as smoothly and as efficiently as possible. Okay, I'm going to ask Penny to talk about this. This has become another part of her portfolio. She has become something of South Africa's #1 QCTO accreditation.
No, I would never say that. I would never say that.
I'm biased.
But since January of last year, we decided to invest the time in creating a do-it-yourself program for our licensees, anticipating that this is definitely going to be a 2, 3, 4, 5-year period of change where it's not just going to happen quickly. And There is also a limitation in terms of number of accreditations that licensees can apply for at any one time. So there's going to be multiple applications going forward. And we wanted to save them having to spend another 10,000 each time that they need to do an application. Ken is just putting up there on the screen, why does training need to be accredited? Within the law, there are these statements in terms of competency, and competency is a word that seems to have been taken over by SAQA. And we know that for first aid, and we know that for working at heights, certain working at heights, and other regulated areas in health and safety, you do need to be declared competent, and in some cases, you also need to be approved by the Department of Employment and Labor. So for first aid, for example, we know that you need to have a SAQA accreditation. Those of you that still have SETA accreditation, that's valid until the past June 2026. Most of our licensees have their SETA accreditation, so they have been able to continue while they're getting their QCTO accreditation in place. But at least here with first aid, we do have QCTO skills programs in place for basic, intermediate, and advanced. And our licensees have been taking hold of the do-it-yourself program very, very successfully and coming through with flying colors and getting their accreditation in place. So for the Prime and the Platinum license, and the Prime Plus is where we actually are involved directly in a project management program with you to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed and that you don't miss this opportunity first time round. So for the Prime and Platinum, we do include the Do-It-Yourself AccrediKit Google Drive. So we've got a massive Google Drive with all the checklists and templates and QMS. The QMS alone sometimes is sold for at least 6,000 rands. It's a huge document, maybe 200 pages or so. And we have ours reviewed every year. It's just gone through another renewal this year. And it's been going through all of these site visits very, very successfully. We've had a lot of compliments. And so the Google Drive is really an extensive resource. And then every month we do a do-it-yourself workshop, which is like a 2-hour workshop where I just go through the highlights and the traffic posts, if you like, the signposts of what you need to do, by when, timelines, etc. And just make things a bit clearer, that it's also recorded so that you've got that as a reference all the time. And we have been finding, as I say, that this has worked extremely well. Licensees, every day or every week, I'm getting a new notification. Oh, I've just had my site visit. It went so well, blah, blah, blah. And we're very, very excited about that. We're looking forward now to the new OHS skills programs that will be coming down the line. And our training materials also being well received by the verifiers, the QCTO verifiers. I think the quality already stands out in terms of the typesetting and the presentation. In terms of the content, they don't really dig into the detail of the content, but the HW SETA verifiers, many of them are subject matter experts and they do have first aid experience. So they do know what to look for. And it's great that they're coming back with great compliments about the training material. So what's important for the QCTO is that the training material answers the QCTO curriculum specifically. And part of the QCTO accreditation process is your venue. The venue is very, very important. And this has raised some challenges for our more flexible trainers, but it's all doable, and there are solutions for. So even if you don't have your own venue, you can still get your QCTO accreditation by simply working together with one of your good clients and making that venue your venue of choice for your accreditation process. So we take you through all of that and discuss that with you so that you have a clear idea of what you will need to do. We have 9 that have been approved, 9 new OHS skills programs that have been approved, 5 of which we already know exactly which ones they are. So essentially, it's the 3 legal liability training courses, basic, intermediate, and advanced, and then the HIRA, basic and advanced. You can see that they have slightly different titles to that which we are used to in the past. But essentially, that's what it is. bearing in mind that QCTO are slightly higher in terms of their level. So what you would have thought of as basic probably is more like intermediate to you and to your learners. But definitely, I think these are going to be extremely popular. We have another 4 that we've been notified have been approved out of another 7 that were submitted recently. And those 7 cover subjects such as ergonomics, as Ken was talking about, such an important course, ergonomics, and also HAZREP, if you like, or they call it OHS Compliance Insurer. So several levels of that, like OHS manager and things like that. So we're waiting for clarity as to which are the other 4 that have been approved. And we're also waiting for all of these 9 to be published on the QCTO website, which means that we can quickly put our training material together for you. And then I know I've got a ton of licensees that really want to get their accreditation based on these. And so your opportunity would be to submit as soon as possible before the year finishes, and get your application in place as quickly as possible so that you can do site visits. If not at the end of this year, then at least in January of next year, you can get your site visits already in place for your accreditation. So yeah, exciting times ahead of us.
Yep.
And bearing in mind, of course, that legal compliance training is 90% really of where it's at. And I think QCTO accredited training is kind of like the cherry on the top for your clients. I think the clients really need that legal compliance training to be done. And so we're covering both tracks. We're covering both sides for you to make sure that you have everything that your client would expect in terms of legal compliance, but also moving forward, you can start telling your clients that you will be able to offer QCTO accredited training courses in OHS skills programs, the most popular ones going forward into 2026.
So you can see that there's a lot of information that we can still share with you. Tomorrow is our orientation session for our existing licensees, for our new licensees. So I know Joe's here at the moment. You might want to join us again for that session, Joe. Every single month, we have an orientation session. But what I want to do now is I want to ask Penny just to talk about the costs, because obviously rates and dates and bits and pieces like that are really important. So Penny, starting at the top with the platinum license.
So the platinum license is what I said for, bigger companies, multi-branch companies, etc. It starts at about 105,500, but it is negotiated. Each company is a little bit different. So that would be where we would need to have a conversation and then just find out exactly what your needs are. Then moving down the line, the Prime Plus is 69,500 plus VAT. These amounts here are all excluding VAT. And the Prime, which includes the do-it-yourself process, is for QCTO accreditation is 49,500 plus VAT. The monthly fee for both the Prime and the Prime Plus is 1,500 per month plus VAT. The Platinum license, normally they opt for an annual license fee, which we work out for them. The basic upfront fee is 29,500 and the monthly license fee is 1,500 plus VAT as well. And remember, if you want to go from the basic to the Prime, then we give you a credit up to 50%, maximum of 50% of the next license that you're going up to. The starter is like our starting point, if you like, for those of you that would just like to get your toe in the water, and that's 15,500 plus VAT. And the monthly license fee for that one is 500 plus VAT. And there are less benefits, of course, with the starter program, but a really, really great place to start. Bearing in mind that also can be credited against your upgrade when you're going forward. Training materials, if you want to just buy one at a time, absolutely a great solution, a great way to do it if that is something that suits you better. And they are 2,604.35 cents. It sounds like a weird number.
It's a weird number.
It just adds up to 2,995, including VAT. So that's really where that's at. And at the moment with the special, you buy two, I think it works out to 5,990, and you get one free. So that's a great saving, which is an offer valid for spring. Happy spring until the end of September. So please do get that order in as soon as possible and take advantage of that if that suits you better.
For those of you that have been in business in the past, you'll know that there are tax benefits to be had. And certainly in this instance, any money that is expended on the development or establishment of a business is tax deductible. It does mean, of course, that you have to have a set of books. You have to have a bookkeeper or an accountant that's going to be working with you. Make sure that you don't pay tax if you don't have to pay tax. And if you can deduct tax or tax deductible, go for it. Do it. And we will share a little bit more information on that with you. But in our orientation sessions, we'll talk about the various things that you need to be aware of, legal requirements and the nature of it. And one of the things that I like to say to people is that this business that you're going to start, if you're an independent training provider, it is an asset. And as an asset, it'll generate income for you. And one day, you may want to pass it on to your kids. You might want to retire. You might want to put a manager in. You might want to sell it. So from day one, build your business with the intention, strangely enough, of selling it one day. So all these accreditations and verifications and certifications and all of these things that you're going to go through, setting it all up. And Joe, you and I were talking about that, making sure that all of that works. It becomes an asset, and that asset is saleable. I would hesitate to say that you're building something that you can do nothing with, given the fact that we have 17 million people in South Africa that need training. Who's going to do it? Possibly you. And you're going to possibly make a contribution in your community and to the people that you know and love so that they can go home in the evenings disease-free, and they can retire one day disease-free and injury-free. Okay, so finally, what's the next step? I'd like you to grab your phone and just take a photograph of Natalie's business number. And if you wouldn't mind, set it up on WhatsApp and send her a message that just says, quote. That's all. And she will send you the quotation formally in writing. Now, if you find that a little bit awkward, you can go straight down into the chat box at the bottom of the Zoom screen and just go into the chat box and just write quote. Your name will come up. I'll know who you are, and we'll then send you a quote and make sure you get all this documentation in place. So please, at this stage, it's just continue with your research. Make sure that you know what you're doing. They often talk about doing your due diligence, and we encourage people to do that. If you have an accountant or an attorney, if you have a brother or brother-in-law or a sister or sister-in-law, mom or dad, who is familiar with small business, talk to them about it and ask them whether they think this is a good idea. As a result of that, you will then get another opinion, and then you can talk to our licensees. If there's anybody in your area that you want to talk to, we'll gladly share the details with you. And you can talk to them and ask them what their opinion is and does it work for them. So with that, we're going to go into a question time now. I'm going to stop the recording in a moment, and then you'll have the opportunity of asking questions. I see we've got a couple of minutes left. We've got about 10 minutes left. And hopefully this will provide you with sufficient information, and you will then be able to make a decision based on all of this. So before I stop the recording, I want to say thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute privilege. What a pleasure. I trust that this has been informative, and if nothing else, that you have an understanding of what it is that we do and what you and how you can take advantage of that. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye for now. Don't go away. I'm going to just stop the recording, and then we'll just open the screen and open the mics. Thanks very much then.